going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets, powered by FTN, right here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney riding solo here with you today. If you're hanging out live on our FTN Network YouTube page, we appreciate you. Smash the like button if you're watching on Game Plus Network. We also appreciate you. Always a great lineup over there. Lots of great stuff. Dangle Betselli, got All in Football with Jake Seeley, got Pat Mayo Experience, fantasy footballers, also some esports stuff happening, some esports tournament stuff happening on a Game Plus Network. As I said, always a great lineup over there. But if you are watching over there, and if you have any comments, any questions, you can leave them here on our YouTube page. Always circle back before first pitch on the main slate. Around the diamond, tip off tonight, game 4 of the NBA Finals happening in Boston between the Celtics and the Warriors. Boston has a 2-1 lead after a really solid performance, I thought, on home court. After it looked like Golden State was starting to come back in the third quarter, like monster third quarters from the Warriors here in the playoffs, especially in these finals. But Boston held their own, had a strong fourth. And I don't want to say they can put the Warriors away, but man, if they want to win tonight, or if they want to win, I'm sure they want to win tonight, but if they want to win the series, and I got a feeling they do, it would go a long way at getting a W tonight. Daily Handle in the house. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us live. We have Joshua Frick in the house as well. Going to be in Vegas for the game. Meaney, let's get these beans. Nice. Very nice. Love it. Absolutely love it. In Vegas tonight, Celtics and Warriors. We do have some NBA props and some picks. We did go perfect the other day. Kind of going back to the well a little bit with some of the props that I do like. We can dive into a couple other ones. I think the Warriors get it done tonight. I really do. I certainly like them to cover the spread. As you see there, 4-point favorites to Celtics. I've seen some 4.5s, seen some 4s. I'm actually... clearly the safe bet would be Warriors +4, but I feel like, I'm going to take them on the money line tonight. My original thought was Warriors win the series in 7. Alex Galvin in the house says Dubs win tonight, but lose in 7. Okay. Golden State will have to win a game on the road in Boston if they want to get it done after losing game 1 on home court. So we'll dive into this series a little bit deeper. Got some picks and some props. Lots of great basketball content over at FTNBets.com. Guys are giving picks. They're giving props. Jill Gallant, Dog Day Afternoon. He's got guests lined up. Going to talk some NBA over there as well. So hopefully we got you covered because you're in Vegas. And we want some winners for you so you can enjoy a really good time there, Mr. Frick, Joshua in the house. Also, this show available on iTunes, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to your favorite podcast. So if you're just new to the show, you're stumbling along this show, Mean Streets, we do appreciate you liking, subscribing, rating, and reviewing. It'll help this show out quite a bit. We will recap last night's action in the NHL. No surprise from my standpoint, right? The Lightning. I mean, my goodness, they just don't go away. They just don't go away. We talked about it on the show. This show yesterday, we talked about it on Dangle Betselli yesterday with Eric Young. They just won't go away, the Lightning, right? The Rangers had them up against the ropes, even up 2-0. Going into Game 3, they had a lead at one point in Game 3. You start hearing the noise about Andre Vasilevsky. The Rangers have figured him out, like blocker side, that's it. And then he goes back to being a human wall. Like, it's crazy what he's doing. He's a for sure first ballot Hall of Famer. And he's got another, I don't know, like the shelf life for goalies, it's weird. Sometimes they can go long, like Brodeur and Waugh and Hasek went really long in their careers. Other times injuries just kind of pile up. We could see the end of Carey Price, unfortunately. Even though he has 3 or 4 years left on his deal, he saw like Ben Bishop and Tuukka Rask, suffer injuries and their careers halted a little bit earlier than, I'm sure what they would have liked. And even just, on the outside looking in, they still had, it looked like a couple elite years left between the pipes with those guys. But Vasilevsky is fantastic, and the Bolts got it done again. Tampa and the under. It seemed like a broken record, and I know that I feel like I'm annoying saying it. Somebody mentioned to me yesterday as well, like, you just want the favorites to win. That's not true. In fact, Tampa was a dog yesterday. Although they're a favorite. They were a slight favorite. Out on home ice, of course, but they have been dogs in New York. But it looks, from Daily Handle in the house, it really looks like the Rangers are done in this series. They had their chance, have not won in Tampa, and Tampa's been really good on home ice, and now they got to go back to Tampa. Yeah, they were dogs last night. What am I thinking? They were slight dogs last night against the Rangers. I think closer to puck drop. Nonetheless, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, there were really no goals, no offense to be found from the Rangers again at 5-5. We talked about it yesterday. We'll just break from that game in general. Going to save it for the very end of the show. A couple things went right yesterday. The two props that I really liked from that game did not hit because Zibanejad and Nikita Kucherov did not hit. But we talked a little bit about like lesser known players. Andre Palat hit the score sheet. He had the game-winning goal, went off his knee. We got lucky there, but we had him for 1.5 shots, Jacob Trouba for 1.5 shots, and Anthony Cirelli for 1.5 shots. You can put that together at FanDuel. FanDuel is offering kind of same-game parlays where all the players that you pick, they have to have the same shots. So you can't just go, oh, I want this guy for 2, I want this guy for 3 and 4. So just did a little Cirelli, Trouba, Palat. 2+ shots. I think it paid plus 255. But the big guys didn't hit. We had Tampa in the under, but the big guys, the 2-unit plays for me, did not hit. So we got to do better there. We hold ourselves accountable at FTN. We have the pick tracker, keeping track of all the records in the pick. So obviously not going to be with you guys tomorrow, but I will towards the end of this show kind of resurface on Prize Picks to see if there's anything there. Just kind of walk through my thoughts. They're going to be very similar. I'm going to like Tampa in the under again. I think we'll see a pushback from the Rangers. We may see some shots from, Zibanejad and Kreider and some of those guys. But, Ryan Strom's playing through something, and man, he missed the empty net there, the pass across. It's a different story. They take the lead in the third, and then we're looking at the Rangers maybe having a 3-2 lead. I said I would break from this game, but I can't help myself. It's a Friday. We're excited. We're talking hockey. Giddy up. We're going to talk baseball here today. We got some MLB props, some MLB picks. Going to dive into really 2 games. Something that I like to look at when I'm playing DFS or I'm looking for home runs or just over 1.5 total bases and props like that. I'm looking at contact pitchers, and there's a couple contact pitchers today. So we're going to dive into Boston and Seattle. It's Rich Hill up against Marco Gonzalez, a lefty on the bump for the Seattle Mariners. He's okay. He's a better real-life pitcher than a fantasy pitcher, but he's a contact guy. He basically walks the same amount of guys as he strikes out, and he doesn't really strike out a lot of guys. He's given up some bombs, and we know with this Red Sox team, they can hit lefties. And speaking of the Red Sox, the Halos finally won a game. What is Boston doing letting the Angels win? They a bunch of bums. It was Shohei Ohtani who single-handedly ended the Angels' 14-game losing streak last night. He pitched a gem. He had a 2-run shot. He struck out Devers on a 101-mile-an-hour heater down the pipe, and then the next inning he has like a 104-mile-an-hour exit velocity bomb over the fence. So he finally got it done. The Angels finally got it done. I don't think the losing streak was on Shohei. Now they got Tino's Mets in town, so it doesn't get any easier for the Angels. But we will break down Boston, and we will break down Seattle, that game, and we'll also take a look at Toronto and Detroit tonight as well. The Blue Jays have a really solid matchup, and it's tough. You can't take these teams when they're like minus 220, minus 230. You can take them on the run line if you want. I do believe the Jays with Jose Barrios on the bump. He's been a little bit better lately. I think the Jays do win against Detroit, but I'm looking at a couple of their power bats, maybe to go deep today or to go over 1.5 total bases. So we'll break that down as well. And we're going to continue our NFL team previews. We're sticking inside the NFC West. We did Arizona yesterday. We had the defending Super Bowl champs the day before and the Los Angeles Rams. And today we are going to talk about the Arizona Cardinals. DeAndre Hopkins is suspended for the first 6 games of the season. PED usage, not good, because this was a team that started off really well. I got in my notes. I had to double check this. I do remember last year how good they started, and I don't think any of us really believed in them. They started 7-0, went to 10-2, then they lost 4 of their last 5, and they got spanked by the Rams in the first round, 34-11. Kyler had the shoulder injury again. DeAndre Hopkins was hurt. And this is a team that hasn't won a lot of ball games over the past couple of years without DeAndre Hopkins. And like I said, they're going to start the season without him. But they did pick up Marquise Brown from Hollywood Brown from Baltimore, who's a former teammate of Kyler Murray. So that should keep Kyler a little happy. He wants a contract. He wants to get paid. Does Arizona want to pay him? Right? Like, do it now if you're going to do it, because it's going to save you some cash. You've seen these quarterbacks year in and year out. They get extra dough. Do it now. You'll probably save yourself a few bucks. And if you don't want to ride with Kyler, and you want to go back into the draft and just play mediocre football, then don't draft Kyler. I think you got to draft Kyler. Like, what are you waiting for? Get it done. We'll talk more about Arizona in a little bit, but I like that connection. They're trying to make Kyler happy, get his old teammate from Oklahoma and Hollywood Brown to play with him, and you're starting to see that around the house. Is Tino in the house? Mets and Angels, yeah. Bring out the Labats. Yeah, must be nice, man. You are just sitting back, and the Mets are playing good baseball. But you told us at the start of the season that they would be playing good baseball. Speaking of football, we're about at the 10-minute break, but let's actually, you know what? Let's just break. Let's just break. There was a little bit of news. Hunter Renfrow. I want to keep the show. Yesterday was, on my part, not so good. We kind of, we finished off pretty weak. We had short and quick segments. I want to kind of balance this out just a little bit. Hunter Renfrow is in the news. We'll talk about him, and we'll dive into Game 4 of the NBA Finals as well. Lots to get to here on Mean Streets. Keep her locked. Welcome back in. Mean Streets live on Game Plus Network here on our FTN Network YouTube page. See a lot of people hanging out. I love it. Don't forget to smash the like button there. Tino Rodriguez, McGill back on the mound for the boys tonight. Dude's going to get rocked, right? It's his first start in a while. We don't believe in Tyler McGill here on this show. Tino, boy, he's just going to get rocked, right? I mean, hopefully Mike Trout's back in the lineup, and Angels are going to start something here now. It's the start of like a 14-game winning streak. 14 in a row, 14 in a row. You know how it is. Unfortunately, we have to sit through the Apple TV broadcast to watch the game. Oh, my goodness. It's not great. I'll say that. It's not great. I don't love it. I don't love the broadcast. I'm not a huge fan. That's all I'm going to say about that. We'll just move on. We'll move on. This will be the fourth Halos game on that broadcast. I just can't deal with it. I don't know. The commentators are not even bad. I don't know, man. I obviously don't have Apple, so I'm kind of streaming from TV, and it never really works out for me. I'm not going to lie. Actually, the broadcast is just okay. It's just all right. Nonetheless. Okay, so we'll save baseball for the next block. We're going to dive into, like I said, Red Sox, and we got the Mariners, and then we have the Bluebirds against Detroit. So we'll dive into those two matchups in a little bit. I think there's a lot to like from the Toronto and Boston side of things. So I think they're in pretty good spots to maybe put up some runs here today. And we'll get to the NBA Game 4 in just a little bit. So before we came on here, Hunter Renfrow signed an extension with the Las Vegas Raiders, 2 years, $32 million extension right there. You see on the screen, $21 million guaranteed. Devontae Adams now a member of the Raiders. Another guy that's with his former quarterback. You're kind of seeing it across the league, right? I mentioned Hollywood Brown in the last segment with Kyler and now Adams. With Carr, we know about Devonta Smith, with Jalen Hurts, and there's a couple other, obviously the one with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and then we have Jalen Waddle and Tua Tagovailoa. You're starting to see a little bit of that across the league, and Adams or Carr had said it's just like pitch and catch from kind of like back in the day. You kind of close your eyes and you just remember where they used to be. And we'll see how that pans out. I don't believe that Adams will have the same type of season with the Raiders like he has had in the past with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers is like the go-to guy there. You got Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow on the squad as well. But Hunter Renfrow, I mean, he was a guy that we talked a lot about on this show. Tino's in the house. He's closet Raiders fan, I think. He was backing them, throughout most of the year. He thought towards the end of the season that they would be a team that got into the playoffs. But we talked about Hunter Renfrow, I think, early and often last year. It was Darren Waller, who I believe started week 1 with like 16 or 17 targets. And then Hunter Renfrow started to get into a bit of a groove. And then especially we saw it when Waller was sidelined with an injury, but he had a career season. Hunter Renfrow, he finished as wide receiver 13 in a PPR setting. I had his stats up here. Just give me a second. Yeah, he finished 15.2 fantasy points per game, which was 17th, but overall in a full point setting, he was wide receiver 13. And now just looking at NFFC drafts, high stakes leagues, of course, they're a little bit different than best ball. I think people are more willing to reach in best ball. You're shooting for upside. You can make a case for anybody in best ball. And of course, money is on the line, but these high stakes leagues is really where the stock that I put into. I know it's still early drafting. I took a look at drafts from May 1st to yesterday, June 9th. So a good sample of like 6 weeks, high stakes leagues, money on the line. And Hunter Renfrow is going as wide receiver 29. He's got a min pick of 43 and a max of 104. So kind of all over the place. People are willing to draft him in the 4th round, and he's kind of falling to like the 8th. So his ADP is 71. So on average, it's like a 6th round pick. So for Hunter Renfrow, I just wanted to take a look to see where Ratcliffe has him. He's got him high 20s. So you're going to draft him as like your wide receiver 3. I think he's going to be good again this year. And again, we'll take a look at last year. These are the stats. It was a career year for him. He had 128 targets. He reeled in 103 of those targets. He had over 1,000 yards. He had 9 touchdowns, 10.1 yards per reception, 8.1 yards per target. And he was just a beast inside the red zone. And I think, we really saw it when Waller was sidelined, like I said. But man, he's a crisp route runner. They have a saying. They had it in Clemson. They had it in Las Vegas. What does the chart say on 3rd and long? 3rd and Renfrow. That's what it says. Daily Handles in the house. He knows it. 3rd and Renfrow. Reliable guy, right? Wins routes and not going to get a lot of double coverage. Tell you that. Never. He's going to be wide open all season. Is he not going to be wide open all season? Absolutely. You're going to see double coverage from Adams. Waller's going to be a mismatch like that. He's already a mismatch anyways, and teams were blanketed him over in the secondary. Now you got to deal with Adams and Waller. Hunter Renfrow is going to be wide open all year. I really like him from a PPR standpoint, and that's what we're talking about here on NFFC, is a full point PPR setting. Maybe he doesn't finish as wide receiver 13, but he certainly can be a wide receiver 3, and I do believe he's got upside to be a back end, low end wide receiver 2 in a full point setting. The touchdowns may not be there. I don't think he gets to the 9 touchdowns. If we're looking for regression, it's probably there. Could he get 100 catches? Most likely not. 80 plus, I think, is certainly there. 85, he could flirt with 90. He could flirt with 950 yards. I should look at the projections that we have. Maybe I'll get them in the next block just to give you guys a sneak peek of some of our projections and our tools over at ftnfantasy.com. But the touchdowns is probably where it comes down. Not that he can't be, again, like inside the red zone, 3rd and Renfrow, he's wide open. But Adams is such a red zone beast. Waller is such a red zone beast. I really like this Raiders team offensively. The division in the AFC West is loaded. It got much better. There's no question about that. Everybody improved. I think maybe even the Chiefs kind of took a bit of a step back. It's going to be a tough division. But from a best ball standpoint and from a fantasy standpoint, you can get Carr late. Adams is clearly going to cost you as a first round pick, end of the first. I've seen him go as wide receiver 2. I've seen him go as wide receiver 5 or 6. But we're talking about Renfrow. I did think ultimately Derek Carr is going as like quarterback 14 or 15. He's had quarterback 14 finishes before. He had MVP votes a few years ago, not too far removed from having Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree on his squad. He had a really good season. He suffered a back injury or a leg injury towards the end of that campaign, and it was all over. Chad Midgley knows all about the Raiders. I don't know if he's hanging out with us live over at Game Plus and Anthem Sports Entertainment. You got to be excited about what's happening with the Las Vegas Raiders. There's a lot to like about the Raiders. They can dial up some pressure, and I think Derek Carr is a really, really capable quarterback. I like where he's going. I would be completely fine leaving my draft with Derek Carr as my quarterback. I want to just double check. I'm pretty sure he's going as like QB 15, QB 16, ADP 97, min of 50. Wow, he's got a higher min of Kirk Cousins, Trey Lance, and Deshaun Watson going ahead of him. Don't draft Deshaun Watson. Enough of that. Should we break again? I do see some comments here. Waller and Adams demand so much attention. Yeah, Renfrow's a PTP, always getting it done, a primetime performer. I think that's what Daily Handle means. And then Tino is talking about his Giants. I'll be happy if the Giants win 7 games, and the whole NFC East has a cupcake schedule, so it will be tough for your G-men. But on the rise, I think, in the green room with producer George and producer Tyler, we were talking about the Giants and the Jets being on the rise. We'll take another break, and then we'll dive into tonight. NBA Finals, Game 4, Warriors, Celtics. I'm going right back to the well. Steph Curry's show. We'll talk about that and more, a lot more, here on Mean Streets. Keep her locked. Welcome back in. Tonight, Game 4 of the NBA Finals in Boston. Celtics up 2-1. Of course, those that are friends and family of FTN and Mean Streets, and Tino's in the house. He knows it, and George is in the house. We were putting our hands behind our head, and we were sitting back. We're just letting this play out as we have 2 futures in the NBA, one on the Celtics at 40-1 and one on the Warriors at plus 750. I don't have to tell you who I think, or who I'm hoping wins this, and it is the Boston Celtics. But I think the Warriors get it done tonight. As I said in the opening block, I really do. For both of these teams, it's really been about adjustments, certainly from the Celtics. We talked about that a lot in Game 3. They have kind of like lost one and bounced back and lost one and bounced back. Starting to see that from the Warriors. We've seen it at least from the Warriors in these playoffs as well, especially after big-time losses. They've kind of bounced back, made some adjustments on their own. Yes, I hope we get a close game tonight as well. My goodness, these playoffs, there just haven't been any close games. I don't know the exact stat, but I know that there was a moment halfway through round 3 where like 30% of the games were decided by like 20-plus points, which was like an NBA playoff record. And the same thing in the NHL. It was like 3-plus goals in 48% of the games. And we're kind of seeing that. I mean, we certainly saw that with the Avs. They took care of the Oilers pretty easily, besides that final game where they won in overtime, and then Tampa in the past couple, right? A couple empty nets, and there you go. But I'd like to see a competitive ball game. We almost had it, Daily Handle, in the last game. We really did. Boston came out so strong. It's like, oh, here we go. But the Warriors had that really good third quarter, and it has been about runs. I mean, in the first game, it was a run from the Celtics in the fourth quarter, like a 40-15 run to kind of put them away when they were down. And then in the second game, it was a massive run from the Warriors in the third quarter. And then we saw a really good run from them again in the third quarter, but then the Celtics had that strong fourth. I'm kind of going right back to the well before we go to picks, actually. So I'm just going to lock in Warriors in the money line. I think the Warriors win. If you want to take Warriors in the spread, I am seeing you can get them. Use our free prop shop parlay calculator over at ftnbets.com. BetMGM has them at plus 3.5. You can get +4 over at DraftKings for -110. FanDuel's got +4 at -112. PointsBet got +4. Caesars +4 at -110. You can take that if you want, but look at +145. In fact, let me get you maybe some better odds. Oh, that's it. That's the best ones. DraftKings +145. FanDuel's got them at +142. I'm going to stay away from the total. I mean, I just don't bet totals. So it's just kind of what I am. I bet single team totals, baseball totals, maybe some hockey totals. But I'll be honest, man, it's just not my jam. I can't really ever get a good vibe when it comes to NBA point totals here. Game and series is very dependent on how serious Curry's injury is. Yes, falling on Horford's foot. I do believe he's fine. There wasn't a whole lot of talk about that after. Like, he's going to be good to go. We finished that out. But yeah, Alex is a really good point, and he's clearly the key. And he's having a really good finals. I mentioned this just the other day. The finals when they beat the Cavs, the first time it was Iggy, right? Iggy kind of stole the show, MVP finals, and the Cavs won the next year, and then they brought KD, and KD was MVP as well. So Warriors have been, 6 of the last 8 finals here, and Curry doesn't have a finals MVP. It's kind of strange, right? He's got everything else on his resume, and if the Warriors do find a way to win this series, it will be because of him. Then he's going to need contributions from elsewhere. Clearly, Klay Thompson had a really nice bounce back game, something that we talked about as well, but I am going to go to Daily Hannah likes the over. The numbers work out. Worth half a unit. Okay. A shout out to you, sir, who likes that. But I'm in on the Warriors money line. I'll probably have that I'll have that in the bet tracker, and I'll have them +4 as well in the bet tracker. But prizepicks.com, your friend. Simple over or under on a player's prop. Fantasy score, 2 for 2. 2 for 3, 3 for 4, 4 for 5. You can still earn a profit. And they have a little special going on here. Jason Tatum, my goodness, if he doesn't get 1 point tonight, I think it's a bad beat. You win. Jason Tatum, 1 point. This is a special going on over at prizepicks.com. I have it. I see it right now. All the way up until tip-off, you can get that. And you can mix and match. We always talk about how you can mix and match across all the sports that you love. I'm going to talk about some baseball props next. At the end of the show, I'm going to dive into some hockey props. I do believe they have some up already for Game 6 between the Lightning and the Rangers. But Curry, we had this on Wednesday. And we also had Jason Tatum as well. We had the over 5.5 assists. His assist prop has now moved to 6, and I still like it. But as for Steph, and I know maybe Alex is, maybe I won't go this way because of the injury. I think he's fine. But he's had 5+ threes in 5 of his last 7 games. In every game of this series, 7 for 14, 5 for 12, 6 for 11. This guy is averaging 12.3 attempts from beyond the arc per game in this series and 6 threes made per game. He just goes on this bit of a heat check. You know how it is. If Curry's going to jack up 12 threes, I gotta feel like he's gonna hit 5 of them. He's such a good shooter, and he is getting those open looks, right? They're running a little bit of a pick and roll up top, and he is getting them. Horford has not been up in his face as much. I mean, you saw it a couple times. Curry hit 3 in a row in the third quarter, and one of those threes he had landed on Horford's foot, and they hit the flagrant. It was a little dirty on Horford, not going to lie. But he's not getting up there quick enough. Curry's going to take those attempts. I think he's good enough to get to the 5 as well. And then you have the other one with Tatum to get a point. So you can go that way if you want. That would pay out 2-1. That pays out 2-1 over at prizepicks.com. If you're unfamiliar with PrizePicks, use a promo code FTN. They'll match your first deposit 100%, all the way up to $100. If you've already used that promo code, refer a friend. It's a free $25 in your PrizePicks account. Boom. Put it right down on these 2. There's a couple others that I like. Some really good lines, like Tatum at 26.5 points and Jaylen Brown at 24.5 points is really, really strong. It's really tight. I'll probably stay away from that. But Tatum assists at 6. I think if you're watching and you're listening and you just feel like the Celtics are going to win this game and you're not with me on the Warriors winning this one, and the Celtics do look really good. They look really, really good. Jason Tatum in wins, we talked about this again on Wednesday, averaging 7.7 assists when the Celtics win in the playoffs. Game 1, 13 dimes. Game 2, 3 dimes, loss. Game 3, 9 assists, W. 6 assists, I think he can get there. I really like the way he's distributing the ball. People are thinking that he's just going to jack up threes. He has the ability to do that. He has the ability to drive the basketball. Man, he is playing at a very top level. But he's sharing the rock. And you know, because they're sharing, you're getting a little bit. Al Horford bounced back from game 2. Marcus Smart bounced back from game 2, where I think he only had like 3 points in game 2. So some of those guys are hitting. Jaylen Brown's hitting from beyond the arc as well. There's a couple others that I like. Jaylen Brown's sitting at 3.5 threes. I think it's okay. I'm not totally there. He had 4 trays in game 3, but his attempts are certainly there, 8, 9, and 8. I'm going to Clay. I like Clay. What we talked about on Wednesday, Clay was struggling. How long can this guy continue to struggle? Is the other Splash brother, and Curry needs him. And for Clay, he just can't stay struggling that long. What did Curry say after game 2 when the reporter said, what kind of advice do you have for Klay Thompson in this struggle? I told him to keep shooting. And that's what he did. He kept shooting. 7 for 17, 5 for 13 from beyond the arc, 25 points. He broke out. He only had 11 points and 15 points in games 1 and 2. His 3-point prop is at 3.5. Not totally interested in that. I like the 19.5. I think he can get to the line. I saw a more aggressive Clay. He wasn't just settling. You know, Clay can hit those threes. He can hit those jumpers all day. He really can. And when he gets into a groove, I don't think there's anybody hotter in the NBA. Maybe his teammate, Steph. But when he starts to drive the basket and he starts to get to the paint, that's the Clay that I like. And we saw it in the last game. 6 for 6 from the line. You know how many free throw attempts he had in game 1? 0. You know how many free throw attempts he had in game 2? 2. He got to the line in that last game, and he looked pretty good. So I'm going with Clay. Brown over 3.5 assists. Over. Love it. I was actually looking at that, Matt H. Nice for you to bring that up. I love the convos. You guys are all super sharp. You got your own props and your picks that you're betting. I was looking at that one as well. I do like it. Just the way the Boston is just distributing the ball. I mean, it's been beautiful to watch, especially on home court. I really feel like there's been a lot of ball movement there. So just to kind of round out, Curry with the over 4.5 threes. You got that gift there from Prize Picks that pays out 2-1. You could add Clay over 19.5. You can add Tatum if you wanted to at 6 assists. You could still do that even though you got the points and the assist in there. And then if you wanted to, Matt H gives you a little bit of a gift there with Jaylen Brown over 3.5 assists. He had 5 assists in game 3. He had 5 assists in game 1, and he had the 3 assists in game 2. And he also distributed the ball. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he had 11 assists in the last 2 games of the series against the Heat as well. He was, I think I got his game log up here. Yes, 6 assists, 5 assists. So he has cleared that number in 4 of his last 6, and he was right on it in the one that he didn't get there. You guys with me tonight? Who do you guys think wins? Celtics? Game and series is very dependent on how Curry, yeah. Alex, who do you like, dude? Give it to us. Celtics? Warriors? I think it's the Warriors to get it done. We're going to break, and we're going to switch gears. We'll talk a little bit of baseball. We are not going to dive into Tino's Mets. That's it. We can't talk Halo's Mets. Mets win today, dude. We will talk, like I said, off the top. We're going to get into the Jays. We're going to get into the Red Sox. I think they got 2 really good matchups. We're going to look at some props and some team totals when it comes to those 2 teams. Keep her locked. I hear Alex is on the, not the bats, the Coronas actually here on a Friday afternoon. Giddy up. Yeah, having a good one here today. Alex, appreciate you hanging out with us live. Yeah, Tino, I mean, listen, what do we got here? I mean, the Angels are not going to, they're not going to rock them. I was just kidding. I was just tongue in cheek. What is this? The first start from Taylor McGill in quite some time here. Let's walk through the numbers on the fly. Yeah, I mean, we gave it yesterday. George remembers. Actually, George may not remember. He was on the bats the other day with the fellas in Chicago, taking in the White Sox and the Dodgers, so he wasn't hanging out with us. Tyler was hanging out with us just the other day, and we talked about the Angels' struggles. Just because they got a win yesterday does not mean that this team is any good at the moment. I don't know if Mike Trout is going to play. Anthony Rendon is clearly not playing. They're missing some dudes. And yesterday when we talked about their numbers over the 14-game losing streak, they were either 27th or last in every category. Strikeout percentage, one of the highest marks over the span, fewest home runs, OPS, WOBA, WRC+, average, and then the bullpen ERA, and then the staff ERA, the starters ERA, not great. McGill's having a pretty solid season, a 9.61 K per nine. He's got 37 punch-outs and 34 2/3. He's giving up 30 hits, 17 earned runs, 4 bombs. The xFIP is a little lower than the ERA, so it looks like he's getting a little bit unlucky. The strand rate is not right around league average, sitting around 66%. He just got roughed up in the one start, That's it. It seems like he's had a pretty good showing. His last outing, I guess, was that injury. I'm not really sure. 1 1/3, he got rocked. He gave up 8 hits, 8 earned runs, 2 homers against the Nats. What happened in that one? But overall, this is a pretty good pitcher. I remember talking about him off the top. I mean, you got to be just thrilled with the Mets, right? Just where they are in the standings with limited starts from Max Scherzer and nothing really from Jacob deGrom. It's pretty good. Can we get McGill strikeout prop? We probably won't find one. Let's see on the fly because the Halos are striking out. We had Nick Pavetta yesterday on the show. Yesterday on the show was pretty good. I mean, we did have the Boston Red Sox who took him on the money line, but we did have Shane McClanahan day. We had him over 6.5 strikeouts. He had 9 against the Cardinals. He was one of our favorites to win the Cy Young at 20-1. He is now 450-1. Yesterday before that start, he was plus 650. He's now 450-1. I said yesterday there was pretty good value at 650. There's not anymore at 4-1. The guy's K per 9, strikeout percentage, swinging strike percentage, atop everybody in the bigs after yesterday's performance. And the Cardinals don't strike out, and he was great. Nick Pavetta we had yesterday at over 5.5K, and he had 11 against the Angels. 11. What do we got for McGill? Nothing. He's plus 130 to get a W. I think he probably gets one. The Mets got some run support behind him. Jonathan Diaz making the start for the Halos. Not going to happen. I'm a little bummed, and I know you wrote it in our chat. Braves and Phillies are figuring it out. So lead helps. Yeah, the Braves are actually. The Phillies had the Halos come through and give them a little bit of confidence. But the Braves are starting to come around. We talked about them yesterday. That's the other pick on this show that we had them over 1. We had them on the run line 1.5. And I like the Braves again. I think they got the Phillies today. Yeah, they do. And they have one of the highest team implied totals. Contreras, young buck for the Pirates, who I do like. Some nice swing and miss stuff from him. He's a solid prospect, but the Pirates are just not going to hit. And then Spencer Strider for the Atlanta Braves been pretty good. But that's not where we're going here for the picks. I think if you can find a McGill prop strikeouts, if it's sitting around 5.5, even though he could potentially be on a pitch count. I don't know, Tino. I think he got some work in the minors before he came up here, but I think 5.5 is something that I would take, especially if it was at plus money, just because of those Halos are striking out quite a bit. But let's start with Toronto. Let's do the Toronto and Detroit matchup here. So we have Jose Barrios on the bump for the Bluebirds. He's coming around a little bit lately. It was a really rough start for him. And then you got Elvin Rodriguez on the hill for Detroit. Man, Javier Baez there. I'm considering dropping this guy. Does anybody have shares of Javier Baez in season-long league? I mean, this guy is absolutely killing me. He's crushing me. It's the only league that I have him in is one of my most competitive leagues, and I just took him because he fell down draft boards. I don't even really want to deal with him anymore. Like, he's just not doing anything. And Tino knows all too well about the Mets. Should be good for 85 pitches. 5.5 strikeouts. I didn't see a prop. 5.5 I'd probably take at 85 pitches. It could get there. This is a dream spot for the Bluebirds, though. So Elvin Rodriguez, 16 innings, 20 hits, 18 earned runs, 6 homers allowed. He's got a 7K per nine. He's walking 4 per nine. He's got a 52% fly ball rate, which is not good. And he's got an 83% contact rate, also not good. That's among the top 10 among qualified pitchers. Well, if he was qualified, he's not qualified. But nonetheless, this guy's given up a lot of contact. He got absolutely torched in his last start against the Yankees. He gave up 11 hits, 10 earned runs, 4 bombs, only lasted 4 1/3. Lefties are crushing them. Righties are crushing them. Lefties have a 448 WOBA and a 44% fly ball rate, and righties have a 427 WOBA and a 56% fly ball rate. Toronto versus righties, it's the 3 usual suspects, the 3 studs that you could imagine, right? Vlad's not having the same, he's not having the same type of year. Let's be honest. The average is not there. There's been some adjustments pitchers are making. Now he has to make some adjustments. We see this with young players all the time. Remember Trout going through this as well. After his first couple great years, and then pitchers adjusted, he had to make some adjustments. But the homers have been there for Vlad. Against righties, he's got 11 bombs, he's got 6 doubles. Springer has 9 homers and 17 extra base hits. And Bo Bichette has 7 homers and a team high 54 hits. Let's start with the Blue Jays team implied total at 5.5. It's high, yes, but it's also plus 105. I like Toronto to not only win today, but I like them on the run line. You can't get involved with the minus 218 on the money line, but you can take them to win by 2 runs here today at minus 125, or you can take their team implied total at 5.5. I do expect to see all the studs in the lineup. Chapman's also in a pretty good spot as well, but these are the 3 guys that I'm liking. But for me, Toronto, 5.5 runs, plus 105. And let's look at some of the other guys. Springer, minus 135 to score a run. He's plus 315 to have a home run. He's minus 104 for 2 total bases. Vladimir Guerrero, plus 340 for a home run. He's plus 180 for 2 hits. I like that one. Plus 180 for 2 hits. If you get a couple walks, we're in trouble. But I think, with a guy here, with Vlad kind of coming around a little bit, we're starting to see the home runs, the contact, the Jays are playing really good, and he's hitting, and Springer's been great, and Bo is great against righties. We know that. But the contact rate, you got a fly ball pitcher, and you got a guy who is giving up 83% contact. So you're going to see some Jays make contact today, and I think we're going to see a couple home runs. Even though it's at Comerica, I think we'll see a couple home runs. He's minus 105 for 2 total bases. And then I thought I had Bo written down here. Oh, I do. Bo is minus 118 for 1.5 total bases and minus 129 for a run. So I know I just threw a whole lot at you, but Bo has the team high 54 hits against righties. I would kind of rank them. I'd like all 3 of their guys. Kirk is interesting, plus 590 for a home run. He should get in the lineup. I know the Jays just called up their top catcher prospect, so we'll see what happens there. But I'm going to go with Vlad Bomb, Bo over 1.5 total bases, and then we'll go Springer run, but I also like 1.5 total bases. And the Jays 5.5 team implied total. We love it. I love the Kirk call. Plus 590 for a dinger. I mean, Rodriguez is going to give one up, is he not? Right? I mean, he's given up 6 homers in 16 innings. He's got that fly ball rate. He's getting torched, lefties, righties. It doesn't really matter. I think it's a pretty good spot for the Bluebirds. And then the Boston Red Sox and the Seattle Mariners are in here next. We got Rich Hill, Marco Gonzalez. So Gonzalez is, you see the ERA, it's not bad, 3.59. It's been sub 4 in each of the past 2 seasons at Safeco. It's not called Safeco anymore. I forget what it's called. Is it T-Mobile in Seattle? Doesn't matter. He is a good real-life pitcher. He's not a great fantasy pitcher. And he's also given up some bombs. You got the Red Sox check in as, I think they're slight favorites now. Basically, I pick them there on the board. But overall, I mean, I do like Boston here. But for Marco Gonzalez, let's just walk through this here for a second. He's had 57 2/3. He's given up 59 hits, 23 earned runs. He's got the 3.59 ERA as you see on the board, but he's got a 4.72 xFIP. He's been a little lucky, and he has an 85% contact rate, which is top 4 in the majors, and he does have the innings to qualify. This is a guy who's got 5K per nine, 34 strikeouts in 57 innings, and 18 walks in 57 innings. So he's walking nearly 3 batters per 9, and he's only striking out 5 batters per 9. The 85% contact rate is an absolute red flag. He's given up 11 bombs in 11 starts, 1 in each of his last 3, 6 in his last 6. This Boston lineup, pretty good against Southpaws. They really are. They're 3rd in average. They're 3rd in WOBA. They're top 8 in every offensive category that I care about. And that's WOBA, WRC+, OPS, slugging, on-base percentage, average. JD Martinez against lefties does not have a home run against lefties. Is it tonight? Probably not. I'd like the guys to get on base. Even though Gonzalez has given up some home runs, This is not the best hitter's park. That's kind of why he has that lower ERA over the past couple years in Seattle. But I like them to get on base and score some runs. 4.5 is plus 110. I like their team total as well. We get the Jays at 5.5 at plus money. We get the Red Sox at 4.5 at plus money. But listen to some of these statistics from some of these guys. JD Martinez against Southpaws, it's video game-like. Despite not having a home run against Southpaws this year, which is really rare because he's been a guy that really mashes lefties. He's got a 1.071 OPS, a 463 WOBA, a 207 WRC+, a 412 average, gets 16 hits. Xander has a 409 WOBA, 929 OPS, 364 average, 16 hits. Devers, didn't fare too well yesterday against Shohei, but this guy's been a beast all year long. And against lefties, 407 WOBA, 356 average, 21 hits, and 9 extra base hits. And then we have Story, who's kind of, last time we saw Tino, I think we talked about Trevor Story. We said buy low. It's going to come around. It's going to happen for him. And then he just went on an absolute tear, right? A 393 WOBA, 3 homers. He has 8 extra base hits. Devers leads the team with 9. But Story has 8. I like all these guys again. 1.5 total bases. I think they're all in play. Minus 110 for JD. Plus 110 for Trevor Story. For those guys, 1.5 total bases. But I like the over 4.5. It's actually at plus 100 over at DraftKings. So just to kind of recap here. Jays, run line. Jays get some runs today, 5.5. Red Sox, I like them on the money line. And also, on the way out, Julio Rodriguez. This kid is looking absolutely awesome. I meant to have this up for you guys. I don't think he goes yard, 4-1 yard. He's been really, really good against lefties. He's hitting 340 against lefties so far this season compared to 248 against righties. So you got Rich Hill there, who probably won't last long. Still not sold on the Red Sox bullpen, but doesn't matter for him. 1.5 total bases. What do we got? This is great live television, right? Plus money. Nice. Plus 110 for over 1.5 total bases for Julio Rodriguez. I think these are the games, guys. There's a lot more action over at FTNBets.com. There's a lot, get more picks for you guys. Discord channel. Use the promo code Meaney if you want to be part of the FTN family. You have all the betting, all the sports packages from everybody. You got the tools, projections. Football season's right around the corner. We have some NFL props already in our bet tracker as well. But let's get some of the big dogs for the Red Sox and the Jays in there. Jays run line. Jays over 5.5 runs. Red Sox over 4.5 runs. And Julio Rodriguez, he's going to get a double today. At least a double off Rich Hill. That's it for the baseball talk. Baez plus 500 over 0.5 double, worth a sprinkle. Probably because I chirped the guy. And Barrios is giving up some contact. Maybe. It's not for me, but plus 500 for a double is pretty juicy. Not going to lie about that. We're going to turn our attention to the Arizona Cardinals. A lot about the Cardinals next here on Mean Streets. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back in. Let's turn our attention to the Arizona Cardinals. We're previewing the NFC West this week, so we're on Arizona. We didn't get to Seattle. Maybe we get to them on Monday. Who knows? Seattle's not very good. They're not going to be very good. 8.5 is the win total here. NFC West to win the division plus 400. To win the NFC, they're 20-1. To win the Super Bowl, they are 35-1. You see the record there, 11-6. Keep in mind this team started 7-0, 10-2, lost 4 of their last 5, lost 5 of their last 6, including the playoffs. If you want to include that in there, they got spanked by the Rams 34-11. Overall, looking at this team, looking for just changes. So Christian Kirk left the squad and he signed a massive deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they lost Chase Edmonds, and they also lost Chandler Jones, who was pretty good for them last year. He had a game with 3 or 4 sacks, one of those games. He's really good. Obviously, he's a really nice addition to the Las Vegas Raiders. They get Marquise Brown, though. They traded their 23rd pick in the first round to get Marquise Brown. More on him in a little bit, but he did have a career year last season, and he has played with Kyler. What we know about this team is they have had moments over the past couple seasons with Kyler, and then there's been some injuries with Kyler, and he's kind of stepped back. 2 years ago, he was fantastic rushing the football, and then in the second half of the season, he had the shoulder injury. He didn't run around as much, and last year, he didn't run at all. He didn't even come close to his rushing yard prop of 650 or 685 or something like that. He just didn't run all that much. But for me, there's no Hopkins on this squad for the first 6 games of the season. That's not great. The loss of Hopkins for the first part of the season, the loss of Jones, unproven cornerback play, inside linebacker play. It really doesn't look good. 8-2 with Hopkins on the field last year and 3-4 without him. Yikes. Not great. Let's do what we've been doing here with some of these teams and roll through the schedule and see if they get to 8.5. I think under. I think that they're an 8-win team. I think the Hopkins thing is a huge loss, even though he was kind of touchdown dependent last year. He really kind of took some steps back. Separation wasn't there. Now the PED use. Coming off the injury, I think he's fine injury-wise. But you got KC. Week 1, loss. Let's put it down. Loss. Got Las Vegas in Las Vegas, loss. Rams, week 3, loss. So there's 0-3 start. You got Carolina, we'll give them a W there. Philadelphia, at home to the Eagles. I'm giving them a loss there. Seattle will give them another win. The Saints, I think they can beat the Saints. Give them a win against Minnesota. It isn't many. That's going to be a tough one, though. Another win against Seattle, so we're at 5-4. Then another loss to the Rams. I'm giving them both losses to the Rams. A loss to San Fran. A loss to the Chargers. I'll give them a W, I guess, after the bye at home against New England. Then they got to go into Denver and play the Broncos. There's a loss. Then they got Tampa at home. There's a loss. They beat Atlanta week 17 in Atlanta. And then I'll give them the other one in San Fran. Give them the split because I think I did that with the Niners yesterday. So there's a win. So I got them at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins. That's what I thought. 8 wins. Under 8.5. That would be the bet for me. I don't like the Cards. They are pretenders. Tino, you called it. I think we both were on it. You were certainly on it. You never, ever believed in their 7-0 start. They were a team that struggled at home, and they were just really good on the road. That's just that sort of stuff doesn't really happen too often. So I like Kyler, like his upside, like the addition of Marquise Brown. We'll talk about him and his fantasy outlook more to wrap up Mean Streets. Keep her locked. Welcome back in one final time. Let's look at just some of these Arizona players and where they're going in NFFC drafts. Again, same sort of deal over the last 5 or 6 weeks, high stakes leagues. You see the ADP there. Kyler is quarterback 6 off the board, ADP 60. I like Kyler. I mean, you got the Funko Pop behind me. I'm a huge fan. I'll probably just pass. I don't think I'm going to have too many shares of Kyler. James Conner had the career year, 18 touchdowns, 15 rushing touchdowns. He just wasn't that efficient, sub 4 yards per attempt. I think he's going to be the goal line back there. Kyler's always a threat to steal some of his touches. I think he's a fine target. I'd be okay with him being my RB2, but I do expect a little bit of a regression when it comes to the touchdowns. Those are hard to predict. Darrell Williams, I don't mind, actually. You see Ingram as the young buck there in the offense, a great, nice pass catcher, out of the backfield. But the fact that they signed Williams after they drafted him is bad news for Ingram. I have no problem actually with Williams. I think he could fill the Chase Edmonds role as RB59. Is just like a bench filler if anything happened to Connor. We've seen him before in KC with 10 plus touches in the offense and see what he could do. I think he's a reliable back. I think he can catch a few balls out of the backfield. And then DeAndre Hopkins, I just won't draft him. Wide receiver 34. I don't care how far he falls. I just don't like drafting guys who are not going to be around for the first 6-7 weeks of the season. So much can happen with your fantasy team. Say you draft a couple wide receivers that just have injuries. All of a sudden you're just stashing Hopkins. And then there was some like separation issues last year. I think he was just really touchdown dependent. I like the guy. He's got great hands. Yeah, I'd like to have him down the stretch of my fantasy football, for a championship run, but you got to get there, and I just don't want to deal with it. I'm into Marquise Brown. I'm into Rondell Moore, and I'm into Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz with Arizona last year, 11 games. He averaged 5.9 catches, 7.3 targets, and 52 yards, just over 10 fantasy points per game in a full point setting. No Hopkins for the first few weeks of the season. That's good news for Ertz. I know they still got Max Williams, and they drafted McBride. I know they got some guys there, but Ertz is still the lead dog there, and I'm totally in on Marquise Brown. Wide receiver 19, ADP of 48. I don't mind the price. I like it a lot. He's coming off a career season. Marquise Brown, he touched career highs across the board, 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns with Kyler while playing in Oklahoma in 2018. That's a narrative that I absolutely like. 91 grabs, 1,000 yards. Those are top, just career high for him across the board. And I think he's going to do wonders for this team, especially early on. Hey, if you liked him with Lamar, you got to like him with Kyler, who's a better passer. And the offense is going to run a little bit more. Like in Baltimore, they ran. It's going to fly a little bit more with Kingsbury. That's it on the way out. I think you should draft Ronald Moore as well. For tomorrow, Truba, Palat, Cirelli. Those are your guys. I'll have some picks in our FTN bet tracker. Tampa closes out the series. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday. Cheers.